All right, we're back with County Commissioner Dan Claypool. How you doing, Dan?
Great, great.
Getting ready for Christmas?
Sure, aren't we all?
Yeah,
aren't we all?
I love Christmas.
Yes.
Did you have a nice Thanksgiving?
Very, very nice. My kids were home, and yes. Yeah.
By the way, how's your son doing that used to work here?
Good. He's
Haven't
doing really
seen
well.
Nick for
He
a
works at ATEC.
Does he?
Doing really well, yes. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
We are going to talk, I think, a little bit about recycling today.
We can, yes.
Okay, what you got?
Well, we've been working on it, and that's really a hot topic at the county and what we're doing and why it's taking so long. So I'd sort of like to lay that out on why it's taking so long.
Okay.
As I would remind everybody that the Ohio EPA wrote this plan for us. And they had certain goals they wanted us to meet, and there is a goal in there about touching a certain number of people with recycling, curbside recycling in the county. But the problem is the plan would cost around $30,000 to $35,000 a month to administer, and our revenue
for the whole county.
Yes,
yeah.
About $35,000 a month, and our revenue is less than $20,000. So that's the real problem of the day, and so there's a number of people have been working on how we can stay basically within the guidelines of the plan, but within the revenue that we have.
Okay.
And you know, we're trying to build a program on about $14,000 a month. So that's less than half of what they anticipated their plan would cost. Now, there are two ways to do that. To raise revenue to be able to do that. You can do a generation fee, which for every ton of material that goes to the landfill, there is a fee. It's $2 a ton. Or you can put a parcel fee on. So anybody that when we were presented these options, the generation fee probably would have been the most likely fee to raise to do recycling. But the city of Ashtabula, being the largest municipality and also the largest provider of that material because they own their own refuge service, has the ability to veto that. And while they didn't come right out publicly and say they would, there was every indication that they were not going to accept the raise in the generation fee because they felt they would be paying the bulk amount of this entire recycling program. The other way was to put a parcel fee on every improved parcel in the county. And there was a group that was advocating for that. And we had reached out to all our cities and villages and townships, and we didn't get one positive response about putting a parcel fee on, nor was there a commissioner, and I don't want to talk for the other two commissioners, but myself, I just can't see how we could put a parcel fee on to pay for this program. So what we're doing now is we're looking at some other areas, but like I said, we're going we continue to fund Ashtabula City at about $2,100 a month, and we continue to pay for the pulls, the refuge or the recycling material at the Geneva Center. So there is recycling going on, but you do have to take it to those other areas until we can work out such time that we can create drop-off centers in the county, other drop-off centers.
Now, Dan, we're into going on a year, I think,
Yes.
since we have not had this. It's been a subject that's been brought up in council on that. My question, not so much to you, but maybe you have the answer, is the powers to be, they had to know that the revenue wasn't there.
It kept declining.
It did.
It kept declining, but one of the things that we didn't know is what the EPA was going to do as far as giving us a plan that we had to follow. We had to wait till that came. We couldn't change, we really couldn't do anything. We were in a holding pattern until we got that plan. And then we got that plan, we were very upfront with them, look, we can't afford that. And because of the county size, we're really at a disadvantage because of our county size and the ruralness. Because our original idea was, okay, we will just require all refuge haulers to provide curbside recycling. It would be paid for by the consumer, and that's just the way it's going to be.
I think
But they
that's
won't do that.
I think that's in place here. I think that when they had this hauling situation going on at council, that they gave them a year or two to go into recycling so that they would be able to pick it up. Now I think that's in place.
I'm not aware of that. If in fact that happened, I know we're working with Ashtabula City, which is the largest city, and we're trying to help them monetarily in getting the material to be able to do that. Because one thing good about Ashtabula City is they own their own transfer station. So that's why we're asking everybody to take the recyclables there, because you can, there's a better of economy and a larger amount. So we're helping them with their recycling, and we're helping them with their transfer station.
As you probably know, we have more problems with the bins, and I think they've been removed, but the bins that we've had here for just even Goodwill bins, they're throwing garbage in them and stuff.
That's what happened to the bins, and I was here before when there was a nice lady that, Donna.
Palowitz.
Yes. She came to us, and we went to council, and council worked with the county, and we were able to get rid of that recycling center on Lake Road.
Right.
Because that was nothing more than a trash dump.
Right.
It was horrible. You would go there on Monday morning, and she showed me pictures, and I actually went and looked at it. That whole neighborhood was 100% right. And that's what happened, and everybody experienced that. It isn't just here. We were in Jefferson. We were doing pulls 3 times a week there. And what people don't realize is once they contaminate that garbage to a certain extent, it can't be sorted any longer. And now it just becomes garbage.
Right.
So, there's a huge difference between recyclables and garbage. But people, a mattress is not recyclable.
Yeah, and that's what we're getting, mattresses and toilets, and it's crazy.
That's why I'm not a big fan of just opening up these drop-off centers. Now, the one in Geneva that I am a supporter of is manned.
That's the key.
And so is the one in Ashtabula. It's manned all the hours that it is open, so they can regulate what comes in and how it comes in and where it goes. So they can keep that material separated. But when you have an unmanned site, you have a large amount, and not just a small amount, a large amount of abuse.
Look what happened at the compost site here.
Yes.
Unmanned, it was a mess.
Yeah, so I would support manned sites. But I really think that the whole answer to this whole question is the state, and I mentioned this last night at a different meeting, and a fellow didn't agree, and that's fine, but I think the state needs to create a consumer-based fee that would then pay for recycling. And I say that because they always come back on the taxpayers. As far as a property owner, which I really believe are carrying the burden right now, and or people that are working.
Now, how do you do the consumer type fee?
You do a deposit. I'm sure you remember when you were a child that if there was like a 2 or 3 cents deposit on a pop bottle, you always put your pop bottle back in the container so you could take it back to the store.
Right.
Now he explained last night there are challenges with that, and I agree that there probably is, and I'm not aware of those. Because if it was that simple as I think it is, then it would have already been done. But I do think they need to come up with that type of a fee that will pay for recycling, because I really believe recycling is really important, but I just don't believe that the working public and or the property owners should be the only people paying for it. I believe that everybody should do their part in recycling, and I believe that consumer-based fee would be the way to do that.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Another subject I wanted to ask you about.
Sure.
Came out on council the other night. Councilman Carroll brought this up. Apparently in 2015, that septic tank thing is going into effect. And I've been discussing this with George Distel, Debbie, when they were state representatives and county commissioners, because I was concerned about it, because I used to live on property that had a septic tank on it. And one of the questions is, people that already have existing septic tanks, does this affect them, or is it just new construction?
It affects them if their septic system fails.
See, that's how I
or
was
is failing.
concerned. Yes.
And one of the things that the county health department requires is that that septic tank be tested at the time of sale.
Okay. Yeah, I
So
think I
at
had
the
it.
time of sale, a person may very well be surprised that their system is failing. Even though they believe it is working, it could be failing.
Now, is this the same thing that they talked about 10 years ago or so, finally going into effect?
Yes.
And I remember George telling me, and I think Debbie too, that they fought this because we are a rural area.
That and some of the recommendations that have come out of Columbus do not fit our county. Our soil makeup, I'm not
I know, neither am I.
but our health commissioner is. And our health commissioner, I just sat through a whole presentation on this a few weeks ago, and our health commissioner is convinced that there are some septic systems that are being recommended that are not appropriate for our soil makeup. And that's the part that I guess I would really disagree with, that one size does not fit all. And we have fought that since the George Distel, Debbie Newcomb era. And what they did is, instead of making it a law, they went through the Ohio Department of Health and made it rules. And so it was a lot easier to do. They had it through, it was ready to go, and then the legislature put a moratorium on it. But the moratorium ends December 31st of this year. So there is going to be some large differences, and I would recommend anybody that was going to plan on doing anything with the septic or building a new residence to go before January 1st and pull a permit.
Yes.
I would recommend that.
Councilman Carroll did recommend that well. He goes, it's still okay to do that, but once January 1 rolls around, you're going to be in trouble money-wise.
Well, you're going to have to get a soil scientist to come in and do a soil analysis. There are other things that you're going to have to do to comply with the rules, and then our local health department will require that.
Do you know how much approximately you're talking that it's going to cost more than what we're doing?
It's in the thousands.
I had heard as high as 30, and
it could be. I've heard a lot of numbers in between. But,
me too. Yeah.
One of the biggest changes is they are going to, the rules will dictate the type of system that you may or may not use. And that will be, there is a set of rules that our local health department will apply. And believe me, our local health department will work with as many people as they can. But I can't stress enough, one thing that everybody should do, and they never do, but they should get in a real habit of starting to get your septic system serviced. If you have a septic system, you just can't go until it fills up and then have it pumped out. You should get in a regular a regular schedule of having it pumped out. I think it's recommended every 2 years, because one of the problems that will occur is that leach bed, the filtering bed will fill. And when that fails, your system will fail, and you will be required to replace that system with a system that is compliant with today's rules.
This, Danny, this could have a major effect on our construction.
Absolutely.
You know, that's what bothers me. And I think when we lived out there on Lake Road at Kingsborough, I think we didn't have sewers out there, obviously, but it seemed that like we had to have, I don't know if we had to have it, but we had it serviced, I think, at least once a year. Not twice a year, actually once a year. And we also threw, it seems like we threw some kind of, they call them cakes.
It's like it's a bacteria that goes in and
they throw into the toilet.
Yes.
And did that. But see, that's why the sewers are important to have. And septic tanks, we grew up with them on when I was a kid anyway.
There's a large majority of our households that are on septics, and according to our health commissioner, who's really great, we were very lucky to have a health commissioner like we do. Excuse me, but I think he's going to be as fair as the rules will allow him to be.
Who is the health commissioner?
Ray Saporito.
Okay, yeah.
He would be great to have here.
Yes, he would.
I mean, he knows these, and he was an opponent against these rules
Oh.
in the way they were created and the way they were brought out. But again, like I said, he's going to be as fair, but the rules will only allow him so much leeway.
Right, right.
So again, he's not going to, again, the rules would allow for the county to start testing every system every year.
Mm-hmm.
Now that would require hiring people to be able to do that, and paying them, and charging a fee for every time your system gets inspected.
Yeah.
He's not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But they will test when in fact they get a complaint of a system failing, or at the time of sale. So there are opportunities when in fact those systems will be tested, and a person will be required then to make the necessary repairs on a system. Now, I'm not saying a system that they currently have cannot be repaired, and the whole system will have to be replaced at the time of failure, but they will have to comply with the rules and follow what the health department says.
I'm getting a call, Dan.
Okay.
Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, you're talking about septic systems, but I'm wondering why our representatives haven't been concerned about the millions and millions of gallons of sewage that each time they have a storm is run into the lake from the plant, the water, or the sewage plant. This is far more than anything that comes from septic systems. And the fact that the Ohio has lowered the standards, even in our own community, for what they test for at the water plant. Recently, they were collecting thermometers, and we don't test for mercury or phthalates anymore in the water, and yet we are ignoring this because they're saying, well, we just don't meet federal standards, and we can't meet federal standards. Why aren't they addressing this when they want to have more people have their sewage systems, when they aren't addressing it right now as far as the quality of the water coming from the lake and the sewage going into the lake from water plants?
That's a great point that you make, and that's the debate that's going on in Columbus today over the algae bloom that occurred in Toledo, or up in that Toledo area. That some would say that a lot of that occurs because of the runoff and exposure from the large municipal plants that are on the water's edge. And there's a lot to be said about the agricultural community, but that's the argument between the two now, and I think that is very soon going to be looked at the legislature.
Well, I think it should be looked at first because it's the biggest cause. And not only that, but why don't they stop lawn chemicals instead of addressing the poor farmer who, yes, they do use chemicals, but they can turn back the hands of time and start to do like they used to and use more natural things. And also, people that are treating their lawns, this is for beauty. This is not for us to eat or to support other things. That needs to be looked at. Also, I wanted to address the information about the collecting of trash. I talked with other counties, and they told me that, of course, they make a lot more by sending it to the landfill for the area. And I recently heard that Geneva has built I believe it's Geneva, where the landfill is for waste management, has built a new plant that produces electricity and gas. Now, are we as consumers going to be paying for this to be developed? I don't understand why when they are getting money from recycling, when we send our products there, why we're going to be paying more to not only sort it, but also we're going to be paying at curbside. So I'd like some answers to that, why it was feasible before, and what's the difference of the amount that they've been making in the county compared to when we had the recycle centers. I don't believe that this is being reduced. I don't, after talking to another county. So
Okay.
maybe they can give us more information.
Okay, thank you, Judy.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
I appreciate your call. There's two questions here. The methane gas generation plant that you're talking about, that is not a government operation. That is a private operation that was built by Waste Management to use the methane gas from the landfill. And that was a privately funded venture, and they sell the electricity out on the grid. So it took a number of years for them to be able to collect and produce the amount of methane gas to make this profitable, but that is a for-profit generation plant that sits on the landfill that was built by Waste Management. The site in Geneva that is built was actually built with solid waste money. It's operated by the city of Geneva and only helped by the county. So the city of Geneva, and that is an argument from the city that we are engaged with a lot, is the burden has fallen upon their residents to pay for this recycling center and operate this recycling center, because the personnel that they have there operating is paid for by the city, and it is used by the district. So that's why we try and help them. But one of the problems with recycling is the better job you do, the less goes to the landfill, and that reduces the generation fees. Like I said, you know, we're down to about $14,000 a month in money, and that's just not enough to run a countywide recycling, especially with the problems that we had with those drop-off sites. You know, we were in Conneaut, we were making pulls every day at over $200 a pull. We were making those pulls of those containers every day, and that was going directly to the landfill because people were not recycling, they were just using it as dump-off sites.
Yeah, and we had a major problem.
Yes.
We did.
And that was everywhere. It wasn't just there. The only places that weren't that way are those sites that are manned and monitored.
Right. And it's been proven here at the compost site. Since they've manned it, since earlier this year, it's worked. Nobody's going in there doing the bad stuff that they were doing before, the illegal dumping and stuff. The budget, Dan, I noticed there was a story in the Gazette, it might have been also in the Star Beacon, regarding you've kind of upped the sheriff's department with some manpower. Is that correct?
No, what we're doing now is we're just going through budget hearings. That was sort of a misleading article. That is what
I didn't understand it.
That's what he asked for.
Okay.
He has asked for 2 more deputies.
Okay.
And some other increases in his budget.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the major increases, he wants 2 more deputies.
Which he always has. I mean,
this is, yes, every year he asks 4 more, and you know, hopefully we'll be able to accommodate that. But we won't know this until we get all the budget hearings done. Usually we are done with budget hearings, and we try and get them done in late October, early November, so we sort of know. But this year, because of the election and because we knew there was going to be a new commissioner, we postponed them until the first 2 weeks of December. So we're pretty well done with the hearings part of it.
gotcha.
And then we will, our process is a little different than other people, is we wait till the end of the year, because once we allocate money to an elected official, they can actually spend almost right till the end of the year. So we don't know how much we will have in a carryover. So we sort of wait till the end of the year, we get it settled out, and then we move forward with actually the allocations into the 2015 year.
Your process is different than ours.
Yes, it is.
Like, we just passed ours Monday.
Mm-hmm.
You have until March?
We have actually until April 1st to do it. We try and do it by March 1st.
So your fiscal year really doesn't start until then?
No. Our fiscal year starts in January, but we actually just pass a temporary budget in the general fund, and what we usually do is give them 4 months worth of money to get them through the year until we pass the final appropriation. And again, that's about March 1st is that's a goal. We try and have it done by then.
Okay.
But I do say, though, in all the hearings this year, you know, including the sheriff, and the sheriff, he just happens to operate the largest department, you know, one of the largest departments in costs. of any of the departments, but all of them have been really reasonable, and you know, I commend all the elected officials for coming in and laying their case out for the services that they provide. Each and every one of them want to improve their services and do the best job they can for the county. So, you know, you cannot, or at least I can't fault any of the elected officials that come in and ask for more.
Right.
They're just trying to improve their department, just trying to update their technology and do the things that they need.
I think they all have wish lists.
Absolutely, they do, but you know, at least in our case, in most, you know, have been some differences, and there still will be differences. There will always be differences on where this goes, but you know, the criminal justice system has always been a priority. It probably takes more than 2/3 of our entire budget. And then all the other departments.
Did he really bring in a pie?
Yes, he did, to demonstrate, yes. And then they had that.
It kind of threw me off a little bit. I go, is a writer making a joke out of this, or did it really happen? So it really...
Well, we always talk about the pie.
Right, right.
And how we have to slice the pie. And so he was just, it was just a joke. It was fun. You know, like I said, these things are lighthearted.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody takes them personal. I mean, everybody has a job to do.
Right.
And you know, he's just sticking up for his department.
And you're sticking up for the people that you represent.
Well, we only have so much money. You know,
right.
That's the bad part with us. You know, it's like, you know, when you're at home. You know, at the end of the day, you know, you only have so much money. And I pride this board in the fact that, you know, we have always maintained that we will not spend more than what we have. And we don't go borrowing from different funds or doing, you know, it's what we have is what we have. And we have that process where we have 5 citizens that come in and sit through this budget process. And then they actually listen and they make recommendations themselves. And if we can, we try and accommodate that if they make sense. And if they don't, we talk with them and, you know, and work with them. But they come in and just to show the transparency of this process. That the commissioners don't have money that they hide.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is just an open process, and that, but at the end of the day, people sometimes don't get what they want. They get a little aggravated.
Now you have you lost a commissioner this year, and due to retirement with Joe Morosky, and then Casey Kozlowski, of course, won a seat. And the process that you guys went, so I guess he was appointed.
He was.
To the last month. Then he officially takes over in January? Is that how that works?
He officially does, but like I had said earlier, we had postponed our budget hearings, and knowing that there was going to be a new commissioner. No matter what happened, we knew that. And we wanted this commissioner to be a part of the process of building this budget. So he wouldn't have came in January and this process would have been almost over. We wanted him to be able to sit at the table and listen to these elected officials and make up his own mind. So the county commissioners have the ability to make an acting county commissioner. And so we did that. And we had talked to him and we had talked to the Republican Party, and you know, so there was a request from the Republican Party that we move forward. We wouldn't have did it if they wouldn't have wanted us to, but it was just in an effort to get him at the table early on in this process so he would understand it.
How long does it usually take for a new county commissioner to get adapted to the situation? I know he's been in public office before, but this is a different ballgame. This
is an entirely different ballgame, and I say that is because in the legislature, you are passing laws that you never see how they affect. At our level, we are the effect of those laws. So we get what those laws are supposed to do. And we are making decisions that are based on information that we have that affect people's lives daily. And we see that effect. We're going through rate hikes in our water company right now, in our sewer system. We are going through different things that we will make decisions that will affect people's lives. And the legislators don't do that. They do that from a distance.
Yeah, right. That's very true. That's very true. Trying to see if I had any questions for you here in the email, so I don't want to let you go without answering those questions. So we're going into the new year, 2015. Do you see anything that would be coming up that we could address?
Well, one of the things that we're going to do, that we have some goals that we're going to try, but one of the things that the Board of Commissioners are going to do is we're going to work with the safety forces countywide to try to improve them. And we're going to try and change our 911 system, and we're going to consolidate our answering points from 6 to 1. We are going to provide a computer-aided dispatch system to all the local police departments and fire departments that will allow them to have real-time information immediately, all together.
Wow.
So it will be a countywide system. The sheriff currently uses it, and all the police departments and all the fire departments so far are on board of moving to this system. It's a countywide system, and one of the things that are really nice about it is it has been developed by a local Ashtabula County company. That's a long-standing company, but it's called ID Networks in Ashtabula Township. But it's a state-of-the-art software that we believe that will move and allow our safety forces to communicate and work together closer with the same information.
Well, we've come a long way.
Oh, we have, absolutely.
Hi, you're on the air.
Good morning, Pat. Good morning, Dan. How are you gentlemen doing this morning?
We're doing
Great,
well.
how are you?
Well, we're doing just wonderful, thank you. Dan, I have a question, please. With the situation at Happy Hearts, do you, as commissioners, do you gentlemen have any action plan towards the assistance of that facility in any way? I know that in several years, there's going to be some major financial changes, and they're in the process of doing so at this time, having meetings, and John Patterson has been there and whatnot. And I didn't know that if you gentlemen had had any type of a plan that would assist these folks. This is something that is a community of its own in our community, and this is a community that it's a very, very, it's a necessity. It's not a nicety, it's a necessity. And it's a way of life for a number of people in our county. We are one of the few counties that this actually is working. And I was just wondering, is there any plan to assist them, and are you able to do so? I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Bye-bye.
Well, first of all, let me say this, that the staff and the board at GD do a wonderful job. They really do. And as the caller said, that it is working. It's very successful. The legislators are changing some laws that are going to have a drastic impact on the way that GD does business. We have not been asked to do anything. They have their own funding source and they have their own board. So we work with that board, but that board actually works independent of the Board of County Commissioners. Now, we are the taxing authority for GD, and we would do probably anything that would be asked. But I'm not 100% clear on all the effects that these statute changes will affect them. I do know that there are going to be some drastic changes, and will probably have a very negative impact on our board. But no, we don't have a plan, but I know that Ann and the group there are working very, very hard on working these out.
I know that this town here specifically has gotten into the mode of trying to stop this from happening. Whether or not that could happen, I don't know. But the federal government and the state want these folks to go out and, I guess, have a life of their own in the private sector, and in some cases that's not a possible alternative.
Right. I would rely on the professionals, because that's what they are there at DD, to give us instruction and help us understand the situation as it grows more dire. But I know Representative Patterson and Ann and that board and themselves have been working together, and we would be there to assist them in anything that they need.
Very good, very good. Now, you and I go back a long time, but I remember when you were working on, because I did an interview with you, and this goes back quite a few years. I think it was it reverse 911? Were you on that?
well, the regular 911 system when we built the
Maybe it was
regular.
the regular
Yeah,
one.
it was the 911 system in itself, and really, it seems like that's just been ages ago, but it really has been less than, you know, it was in 2000 or 1992 or 93 when we built that.
Yeah.
And we thought that that was fantastic that we were able to identify a phone number and who was on the other side of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But today we're able to do that. We're able to give live time mapping to a car, not just to a dispatcher, but the dispatcher, and we're able to send that. We're able to sell call histories. We're able, then those individuals in the cars will be able to text back and forth among themselves rather than actually talking. There's a whole new way of communicating with law enforcement and fire. So we can give them real-time information right from the communication center, and we're going to do it with one center rather than 6.
That's amazing.
It is amazing
so
to me.
we're
Absolutely.
talking 22 years ago when you were working on that system. But you know, we've used that here with our school systems, the reverse one, where they
absolutely.
call your house and say school's going to be left out.
Yes. You know, we use that all the time in the county, and different agencies use that for different information that they want to get out into clusters of people. Maybe a school system, or if we're doing smoke testing in our water system, or our sewer system rather, we'll do a call to tell people, geez, you know, we are doing smoke system, you know, testing. If you have a problem, please call us. So it's a wonderful way of getting information out to the public.
Unbelievable how things have changed and gotten bigger and better.
In 20 years.
In 20 years.
20 years ago, we didn't even have computers that, and today we carry them around on our wristwatch.
Yeah, I know it. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
It's way over my head. You know, of course, you being a former law enforcement person with the sheriff's department for many years, a lot of problems out in society today, isn't it, Dan?
It is. It's a lot, and it is so much different than what it was when I was a law enforcement officer. And I can't even compare the time that I was out there to what these officers are faced today.
Right.
We have such a drug epidemic out there today.
Terrible.
That if we could get rid of that scourge, we could get rid of a number of social and economic problems in our society. I mean, that is the worst, one of the worst scourges that we have out there today is our drug problem.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you get your arms around it. I know that we're working with Nick Irochi, our county prosecutor, and we're going to try and work with all the new judges to try and create a program that will be efficient through our courts, through our law enforcement, our courts, our mental health, our rehabilitation. We're trying to pull all those people together so that we can create a system that will be efficient and that will work to try and rehabilitate some of these users, because really and truly, when you go into a room, you don't know, and I would say there are a large number of people in a room of people that have been touched by this drug problem. It is not in a sector, or it is not in a class of society, or it is everywhere. And it's such a negative problem, whether it's workforce, whether it's education, whether it's the family unity. It just destroys everything. It is such a destroyer.
And I get the police reports in this day and age now. I get them emailed to me every morning by the police department. And I'm telling you, Dan, 9 times out of 10, whenever somebody's stopped, they find marijuana, crack, meth, whatever in vehicles. It's just amazing to me.
And I guess the biggest problem, and something that people have to understand, and I'm not, I'll be clear, I'm not for taking people's guns away from them. I am not. But I do think that at some point we got to quit putting guns in people's pockets, everybody's pockets, and making it more free to be able to do that, because that is a problem that a policeman faces each and every day out there. You know, really, there probably is nothing wrong with a responsible individual being able to own and operate a gun. But, you know, we are just swinging so far that other way, and we are making it easier and easier for irresponsible people to have guns and carry guns. And all you have to do is listen to the news. I feel so bad for that entire family that was wiped out in Cleveland a few weeks ago. 5 people were killed.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about it other than, you know, it was from children to adults that were killed.
Yeah.
But my guess is it is drug related somehow.
Yep. I know.
And you know, I don't have the answer. I wish I did have an answer. It's a horrible problem for us. But again, like I said, people will agree and not agree, and everybody has an opinion. I don't have any problem with a responsible person having a gun, but there are a lot of irresponsible people out there carrying guns.
I gotta ask you this, Dan, with your training as an officer, the little 12-year-old boy that was, not little, he was 175 pounds, but he was a big 12-year-old boy. Are officers trained to be that decisive on shooting somebody?
The only thing I can say, and I sympathize with the family, and this is a society problem, and again, I don't have the answer. You have to, before you can judge those officers, you had to stand in their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I can't tell you whether or not it was, you know, it was the right thing to do or not the right thing, and that's why we have a justice system that judges that. Mm-hmm. But I would be the last person that would make a judgment of those officers, or any of those officers, by seeing a news clip, by seeing 4 or 5 seconds of what happened, not knowing all the information that they had, not knowing the whole background behind it. And that's why they lay these out in a month or 2 months in a grand jury, so you can try and rebuild that. But it is so unfair for the media. It is so unfair for these social networks to try and judge these officers for making these split-second decisions that everybody else has months and maybe longer to make judgments on.
Very good point.
So
I told my wife, and again, I'm like you. I feel bad for the families that have to go through this.
It's a horrible tragedy.
But I did get to a point where I actually turned the volume down on the news because they just kept going over and beating it up. You know, I had enough of it.
Well, you have so many of these media sources that are making judgments.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And if you really look at it, the officer in Ferguson, as the situation unfolded and more facts were let out, it was somewhat different than what the media was telling people. And then you have all these other people that have their own issues that they want to promote.
Yeah, I know.
You know, it is a certain tragedy for anybody to be killed out there. You know, and I was so fortunate in the 20 years that I was out there that I never was put into that situation.
Right.
I was put into situations that I'm glad that people never had the opportunity to judge me for, though, because, again, a person has to stand in those shoes at that particular time and that particular second to be able to know what's going through those officers' mind.
How true that is.
I'm not saying that every officer is right, you know, but you really have to be able to see what they see and feel what they feel at that particular moment in time to be able to judge what they do.
Very well put. Dan, you got Christmas coming up. Now, you staying home this year?
Staying home this year. My kids are home, and
so they'll be coming to your house then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my wife and I are pretty happy with that.
Sure.
My daughter's getting married next year, so we're going to have to start dividing our time. And
that happens.
Yes. So that's life, how it unfolds. So
yes,
yes, we're really
good for you.
Really blessed.
I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Same to you, Pat.
To you
really.
and your family.
And I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and please be safe, be responsible, and thank you.
Are we getting another call? I guess we got one last call.
Okay, great.
All right. Hi, you're on the air.
Hey, Pat.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning, Dan. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. This is Ken Tryon.
Oh, how are you?
Not bad. I just want to call and tell you, you have a nice, wonderful Christmas, and you and your family.
Thank you so much, and you and your family also.
Thanks,
yeah,
Ken.
And I know your dad and mom well. They raised you up good. You're doing a heck of a job.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
and I do have a great set of parents.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah. Have a nice Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I think you called last time you were on.
Yeah. Yes, I knew him when I was a kid.
Oh, you knew him?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, what we're going to do, we got to take a break. Thank you so much, Dan, for coming in. We'll see you probably in January.
Okay, great. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, after the budget gets passed, I'd love to come back.
Okay, excellent.